Major red flags. When the first kill isn't the last. Welcome back to Mark for Evidence with Zuska.
And Moment in Crime with Luna. 2 shows, 2 sets of eyes, one very disturbing truth. And that is that some killers don't stop at one.
They taste blood once, and something in them changes permanently. The media calls them serial killers. Investigators call them repeat offenders. But for those of us looking closely, studying their patterns, their behavior, the warning signs start long before the body count climbs.
If we could just catch them then, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And also, when the first kill happens, if you know what to look for, you can tell it's not going to be the last.
That's so eerie.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's why the first kill matters.
Mm-hmm.
When a murder happens, it's really easy to view it as an isolation, just like it's a single crime,
Yeah.
Like one single motive, or okay, a life is taken.
Right.
But for certain offenders, a first murder isn't a spontaneous moment. It's a doorway. Think of it like it's breaking open a seal. They have fantasized, planned, rehearsed it in their minds. And when it happens, when they actually do cross that line, there's absolutely no going back.
That is an insanely good metaphor. Breaking of a seal.
We're not just talking about how the victim dies. We're going to look at the deeper psychological fingerprints, the elements that signal that this is part of something bigger. Red flag number 1. The kills look personal, but they aren't. Investigators often describe a personal murder as one involving overkill, like stabbing far beyond what is needed, or massive blunt force trauma, mutilation even.
Yeah, so something that would kind of indicate like this isn't something that was like a what do you call it when somebody's self-defense, I guess.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
overkill. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You're right. It makes sense when the victim and offender know each other. Like, for instance, rage or betrayal or even emotional heat. But when that level of violence is inflicted on a complete stranger, that's completely different. Because, Luna, it's not about losing control. At this
Mhm.
point, it's about acting out a fantasy.
Ooh.
And that victim isn't personal to them.
Mhm.
They're a prop, like in a script that the killer has been writing for years. Think about that. So let's talk about red flag number 2. And that's when the killer sticks around.
Mm.
Mhm.
Girl, you're giving me the goosebumps.
So some killers do vanish.
Mhm.
However, some hover, and they will attend the vigils, and they will lurk around the crime scene. And they will even, have to look at every single news update on them. And, I've even heard stories about some even trying to help in the investigation, but like volunteering for search party or even giving interviews. And it's not about guilt or anything. They don't feel bad. It's
Mhm.
about control or even curiosity. They want to see the ripples they've caused, or they want to make sure the narrative is actually playing out in their favor so they can kind of tweak things if they get involved. And then we have red flag number 3, and that is where the signature begins. This is the killer's modus operandi, and that's their method. And it can change with time, but their signature, that's psychological. And it's the thing that they need to do to complete the act in their own mind. It's actually a form of obsessive compulsive. They have to do it or they're not going to feel like they've completed the act properly.
Wow.
So it can be anything like posing bodies in a certain way or Sometimes they leave something
Hmm.
at the scene of the crime, or sometimes they remove a specific item.
Is it like token taking?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. When you, though, see that signature in the first kill, this is how you know it isn't random, that it's
Mm-hmm.
ritual. If you think about this, Linda, I wonder if any of them get mad if we miss the signature the first time or two, you know?
Yeah. Do you remember that one time I was telling you about, I believe he went by Story Time Killer, or that's the name they gave him. So this man calls into Howard Stern, and him and his co-host, they were talking to him, and you can tell at first they're like trying to figure out, oh, this guy's joking around with us. He's, awful
Yeah.
joke, but that's Howard Stern's show, in my opinion. It's just all crude, right? But
Hmm.
this guy just very frankly says, I'm not joking with you. I am a serial killer, and I'm trying to figure out why I do it. Why you would call Howard Stern, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Great
But
advice.
really,
Okay.
what it ended up being is he started divulging information that was not made in public. And he had a thing where he was attacking sex workers, and his thing was he thought his signature would be like, oh, I'm going to make sure they get paid, and I'm going to be creative in the way that where I put the money. So the first time, at least the first time, I don't know how many times it was missed, but the first time it was missed. And this occurred in New Orleans where the bodies were found. And you're right, his method changed. He had 2. So in the
Mm.
beginning, it was like strangulation, I believe, and then I think it was, he used an object for the later ones. But either way, he described the way he would tell them that they were about to die. Very crazy.
Oh,
But he's describing all this, and there's a point in which you can tell that Howard Stern is like, I think we're talking to the real deal. This is back in 91. So it's not like Howard Stern could press a button and find out where
yeah.
this man was, right?
Yeah.
So the guy ended up being pulled over, and he said, oh, I was working on my car. I was, changing whatever in my car, fixing something. But there were no tools to change anything, fix anything. What he did, however, have is at least makings of the beginning of a kill kit, if not the full kill kit that had been used.
Lovely.
And that is how he was actually caught.
So I love how,
Yeah,
they missed his signature about the
they
money,
did.
and oh, his
And
narcissistic feelings were hurt.
yes, yes, he expressed how bad they were hurt. It really disturbed him. And you can hear it. He talks about it. You can hear him talk
Yeah,
about it.
guys, look it up on YouTube and check
Mhm.
out the interview between them.
Yeah, back in 91. I think it's Storytime Killer, the name, something to that effect. So here's another really creepy red flag,
Hmm.
and that is returning to the scene.
Oh yeah.
Now, this one to me is like one of the most unsettling traits that they have. They come back, and a lot of times it's going to be to move evidence, but not all the time. Often it's because they're trying to relive it. I mean, so case in point, Ted Bundy returned to, and I'm going to give you the word he used, his dump sites. And it was not to clean up, it was to re engage. It really was. It was to really merge that reality with that fantasy in his head. And current case that now convicted killer of the Idaho Four, Brian Koberger, if you guys will remember, so they have a lot of documents coming out. But if you remember, one of the first things that they noticed is that though there were 2 surviving roommates that were in this college house that was right off campus, and one of them came face to face. By this time, he had already killed 4. From what the evidence shows, is that the belief is he came for 1, but encountered 3 that he wasn't anticipating. So the 5th one that he encountered, they believe he was simply tired or delirious or worried that the police had been called. His method was a K-bar knife,
Hmm.
and underneath the leg of the very first victim was the knife sheath. cleaned
Mm.
completely of his DNA except the bottom snap. So he cleaned the top of the snap, but the very bottom had his DNA. There are plenty of circumstantial things. There are videos of his car leavings, but he came back to the scene the next morning. So this happened at 4 in the morning. They had all been drinking their college, having fun. She's like, did I see what I think I saw? I know I saw somebody like in a dark. He had one of those masks that only you could see the eyes, right? And he was wearing a dark suit. And she said he carried something that looked like what she thought was a vacuum cleaner. So she was
Mm.
completely like, I don't know what I saw. She ends up talking to her roommate who was downstairs because none of the other four roommates were answering. She thought, well, they must have been out drinking, having fun. There was parties that night. There were dances that night. She thought maybe they were passed out. She could not even fathom that had been happening. Who would fathom that? Who could even think that, right? So he comes back the next day and you can see his car. 9, 10. No police were there. They weren't called until almost noon because the girls were asleep. They woke up. Then they realized, I don't know if this is if that was a dream because they kept calling the roommates' phones and nobody was answering.
Huh.
And this is a three-story home. So they're calling out and nobody's answering. So they are completely terrified. So that was very terrifying. So he went back either to see if the police have been called yet or potentially to retrieve that knife sheath. They're not sure. Maybe it'll come out in the documents.
Most people are familiar with the Green River Killer.
Mhm.
He would always go back to his sites. He would bring the trophy that he collected from the victim, and he would then do disgusting acts,
Mm.
at the scene of
Mhm.
the crime.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, a lot of them do return, and some
Mhm.
of them that leads to their demise.
It does. It does
Mhm.
because they will watch. The police will
Mhm.
watch for it, but
'Cause they know that it's a thing that they just
yeah.
have to do.
And then there is another fifth red flag. And keep in mind, these are just some. By no means are we saying these are all, but fifth red flag we're going to talk about is how the buildup was already there. And
Mhm.
what we mean by that is that you're not just waking up one day and decide that you're going to become this type of killer. Some warning signs are often in plain sight, and we're talking anywhere from cruelty to animals, fire setting, stalking, voyeurism, which
Mhm.
is
Ugh.
largely in a lot of cases,
Yeah.
and extreme social withdrawal. So there is a term that actually used in the field that's called the McDonald triad. And that is where there's bedwetting that's past a certain age. So, the appropriate age. We're not talking toddlers, even
Yeah.
young kids, below 10, right? Accidents happen. We're talking about bedwetting beyond that. And just because you have bedwetting, listen, it could be some type of actual, medical illness. I'm just telling you what the McDonald triad is. So, bedwetting past a certain age, fire setting, that is a huge one.
Yeah.
And animal cruelty. It always seems to involve animal cruelty. When these types of behaviors combine with like escalating risk taking, that is like that big flashing red warning light going on. Let's talk about some
So I
particular.
looked up what age they
Mhm,
consider the bedwetting past the age of 12, and
mhm.
the person can't have any type of handicap or, anything like
Correct.
that.
Any type of medical. Yep.
Yes, there's no
Understood.
medical issues, obviously, because that.
Here are like some of these case studies where these red flags were actually missed. So we were talking about Ted Bundy. He was a very polished predator. Let's not mince words. He was. He didn't fit the quote monster mold. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is he was charming, he was well spoken, he was in the political arena. So he knew how to talk to people, he knew how to engage. When he first committed his first confirmed kill, it actually was not the beginning. It was only the first one we could prove.
Exactly.
So when we look in his past, and this also goes for Brian Koberger, they both attended crime awareness lectures. Brian Koberger, in fact, was going to school to get a doctorate in criminal psychology, by the way. Both of them attended these lectures. Both of them volunteered with anti-crime programs, and that's not irony by any by any way. This is actually them trying to infiltrate. So with Ted Bundy, in his first murders, he was already posing bodies. And I mean, that is a deeply
Yeah.
personal signature. Now, this next one creeps me out. I think it will creep out everybody. I mean, we're all obviously like
Yeah.
true crime, but this one of Israel Keys, man. So the ghost who planned everything, right? And they planned everything ahead. He had buried kill kits. I'm talking firearms, restraints, he had cash and he spread it all over the US. They were buried and spread all over the US. And sometimes they would be there years before he would ever use them. I imagine there probably still are some that have not been
Oh, I
used.
imagine there's some still buried.
Right. And that's not impulse, that's strategy. And his victims, on top of that, his victims were random. There was absolutely no connection, and that is how he stayed invisible.
You know how he got caught? He got caught because he broke his own rules and he killed someone by his house. Because, he was burying all those kill kits, like you said, in all these different places, and they were not by his, place in Alaska.
Mhm.
And he
Mhm.
killed someone close to home, and that's how he got caught. He broke his own rules.
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
So when we think about like this precision and the patience that he showed, there was really one thing that was very clear, and that was that he had done it before. This was obviously not a first time offender. This was a seasoned offender by all stretches of the imagination.
I don't think they'll ever know how many people he actually murdered.
I agree. And then we have Aileen Wuornos, who is, this is survival as compulsion. Now, listen, if you have not seen Charlize Theron's version of the story of Aileen Wuornos, it's called Monster. You owe it to yourself to watch it if you are a true crime fan because she got her mannerisms down to a T. And in fact, they were able to really, really make her look like Aileen Wuornos.
I'll have to check that out. I haven't had a chance to watch that.
With her first killing could actually have been deemed as self-defense. It really could have, because she was a sex worker. She killed a very violent client. But what happened is she started doing it again and again and again, and that pattern emerged. So we're talking same type victim, same weapon, same method. She was killing for survival and control. And next, let's talk about Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey. So
Oh.
the fantasy never left him. Never. His first kill at 18 was supposedly accidental. Mm, I
Yeah.
think we both beg to differ on that one.
Yeah.
But, he'd been fantasizing for years. And after a really long gap, he escalated so fast. He was taking trophies, he was posing bodies, he was attempting to create living zombies that he could control because he wanted them to live there with him. It was insane. And the part that I will never get over is the way that the police turned over the gentleman that actually was able to get out of the house,
Oh,
was undressed, who woke up from, I believe, a concoction that had been made. He woke up, he escaped. The police returned him because Jeffrey described it as a lover's spat, and they gave him back as if he was his to give back. It was disturbing.
exactly.
And then we have the cold case tie in. This
Mhm.
one, the Long Island serial killer. Now, listen, this is the Gilgo Beach murders, and this is still actually going on. So we're going to have to say alleged. These occurred over a decade. So there's so many questions that still need to be answered. Multiple victims, same general type, petite women, sex workers, a lot of them dumped in the same area. And there were long gaps between killings. And because of the corruption in that area, from political corruption to police corruption because they also had, we'll say, run-ins with sex workers as well. They were really trying to get the heat off their back because the FBI came in and were really trying to help out. He would even contact the victims' families.
Yeah.
And that's not just cruel. That's so calculated. That's so manipulative and disgusting. So, for years, cases were scattered between jurisdictions, and the pattern wasn't seen, and it wasn't wanted to be seen. Let's be honest. It wasn't because of the corruption as well. So, that is how a killer can actually walk among us for years. You
Mhm.
know, when one hand doesn't want to talk to the other hand, come together and let's work together.
Yeah.
True crime podcasts get the word out to where maybe some other people would never have even heard of it. And you could potentially have some information that could help out. So I say we need to keep doing what we can do. All of us, there's some fantastic ones out there. But right now, you are listening to Moment in Crime with Luna.
And Marked for Evidence with Zuska.
If this story lingers in your bones, please follow both of our shows and turn on your notifications. Please leave us a comment. Let us know what you want to hear about next. Forward it to your favorite true crime friend before the story finds them first. And leave us a like. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. And until next time, lock your doors, guys. Keep your mind sharp, stay aware, and never look away from the red flags, especially the ones that look back. If you see something, please say something.
Yeah.
Till next time, guys. Bye.
Bye.